Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Village Council meeting for Monday, May the 4th, 2026. We're going to start off with a call to order.
Delora Leonard.
Here.
Shu. Here. Samari.
Here.
Pierce. Here. We're expecting Carmen Brown in about 5 minutes. Also present is Village Solicitor Amy Blankenship.
Great. So we're going to do executive session, so I could get a motion for going into executive session under Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G1 to consider the evaluation or compensation of a public employee.
So moved.
Second.
All right?
All right. Delora Leonard.
Yes.
Shu.
Yes.
Samari.
Yep.
Pierce.
Yes.
Thank you for
Okay. Hello, and welcome back to the Monday, May 4th Village Council meeting for the Village of Yellow Springs. We just had an executive session, so that's why it's back, and welcome to those of you who are here for the first time. We'll take a motion to enter the regular session.
So moved.
Second?
We need an all those in favor?
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Could be a good way to get out of a meeting, I guess.
Could have been.
All right.
All right, we missed that opportunity. So we've already done the call to order and the roll call and the executive session, so now we are going into announcements. Are there any announcements?
I'll put my hand up for announcements. This Saturday, YS Uproar hosted an amazing resource fair here in the courtyard. There were so many amazing organizations that were present. It was a real Yellow Springs day. One of the organizations, and it could have been many, that I did interact with substantially was NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, who I've worked with in the past in Montgomery County, but not necessarily in Greene County. And they did want me to announce, or I offered to announce, that they do have a new Yellow Springs-based event that is the second Monday of each month at 6 p.m. It's called Connection and Care Series. The topics covered are understanding mental health, coping with stress, self-care strategies, crisis resources, and it's open to anyone from students, professionals, educators, healthcare workers, and first responders, and it will be hosted here at the John Bryant Community Center. So I just wanted to get that out there as well.
In rooms A and B.
In rooms A and B.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, and you could let them know if they want to send over a flyer about it, we could put it in the packet too. Cool. Other announcements? Okay. Next up on the agenda is the consent agenda for the minutes from April 20th and the minutes from the special meeting, the housing retreat on April the 9th. We can do a motion to approve both of them if somebody wants to give it.
Motion to approve both of them.
Second.
Great. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. Moving on, we are now at the review of the agenda, the time where we check in on the things that are on the agenda to see if there are any changes or questions. Is there anything for review of agenda? All right. Next up is petitions and communications, where there are not any, I don't believe.
There are three.
Okay. The version of paper that I have in front of me does not have any, but Angie, if you don't mind reading those through.
We have Kathy Adams regarding retained village management of Lawson Place, Philip O'Rourke regarding June Street Fair, and Carmen Brown regarding sale of renewable energy credits memo.
And then you did have the one, just that.
Yep, and then we have the one from Louisa Berry regarding Antioch College as an asset.
Cool. Thank you, thank you. All right, and then next up is citizen concerns. And I'm going to get out my little page here. The things that I'm about to read are on a sheet that are at the table when you come in. The protocol for citizen concerns. This is a time set aside as a place for citizen comment on anything you wish to share for council consideration. If your comments are regarding a second read ordinance, they should be made during the public hearing for that ordinance. Public hearings are clearly noted on the agenda. Persons wishing to address council at any time during the meeting, including citizen concerns, should provide first and last name and association with the village, like resident or business owner, former resident, etc. Please try not to repeat previous comments. If something has already been shared, you can note agreement. In the interest of time, you'll be asked to move on if a topic has already been covered at length. Council wants to provide a thoughtful and responsive answer to questions which can be difficult in the context of a meeting, so you are unlikely to receive a response during the meeting. And at the conclusion of citizen concerns, if there are clear, concise responses or information to provide immediately, we will do so, and we will identify any follow-up needed for concerns or questions that can be addressed. So yeah, and this is our second or third meeting with citizen concerns before hearings and legislation, so the ongoing education of come at the beginning for citizen concerns, which hopefully works for everybody. So now we are at citizen concerns. Does anybody have anything they want to share? Go for it.
Thank you. My name's Mitzi Miller. I'm a 30-year resident of Yellow Springs, and I will ask for a little additional time since I'm reading. Appropriate accessible parking is necessary to provide safe, close, and functional access to services, ensure independence and equality for individuals with mobility challenges. These spaces are mandated by the American Disabilities Act, our village ordinance, and Ohio laws. Best practice and guidelines for accessible parallel, angular, and perpendicular parking need to be followed to ensure safety, legal and independent access for people with disabilities. If we expect our officers to enforce accessible parking laws, we should be providing consistency with our signage throughout the village and our business parking lots. This week, I will be meeting with our manager to share surveyed information and recommendations and a PowerPoint on accessible parking, and then I'll share it with council. I want to thank village member Teresa Mayer and Barbara Mann for their insight and suggestions in this list that I'll be providing. While seniors are significantly part of our village, a disability can occur at any moment or is often unavoidable as part of aging for those who live long enough. While we have a comprehensive parking plan, it needs to be reevaluated. I encourage our village to have a town hall gathering to share your plan and allow villagers to ask questions and give input and suggestions. I can also recommend that you consider involving the McKee Association. I hope you'll develop an action plan moving forward with the information I'll be sharing with you. And a fun kind of note today, I had to deliver a package to the post office, and I talked to the postmaster about the signage. And he is putting in for new signage with the 250 fine information on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There are other citizen concerns. Yep, come on up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Louisa Beery. I am born and raised in Yellow Springs. I am a current Yellow Springs resident, and I work as the Dean of Co-op at Antioch College. Last week, I traveled to Hampshire College in Massachusetts to participate in a transfer fair for their students who are now looking for an academic home after the sudden announcement that their college would close after this fall. It was with a heavy heart that I met students, faculty, and staff in my role as Dean of Co-op at Antioch College. My colleagues and I worked quickly to provide support for members of their community who are now considering Antioch a sister college with similar interdisciplinary self-designed major pathways and progressive educational values that are under attack across the country. Ask any of your friends or family right now who work in higher education, and I can bet that all will concur it's tough right now. As I return to my beloved Antioch College campus and hometown of Yellow Springs, one might imagine what is on my mind. How can we all do all that we can to ensure Antioch's long-term sustainable future? I write to you as Village Council to ask you that question and to provide some insight into a few things that are in your power to help with right now, not in a year or 10, but today. The Windsor Companies has been in dialogue with the Village of Yellow Springs and Antioch College for over a year on renovating and converting the Kettering building into senior apartments, as well as demolishing, abatement, and building apartments on the site of the former student union. I urge you to facilitate the process to move forward swiftly, collaboratively, and without excessive red tape. There have already been several votes to endorse their proposed projects, which will provide lasting housing benefits for seniors and young families working here in Yellow Springs, among others. Hampshire, like Antioch, also had a plan to reduce its campus footprint with some targeted land sales to support area housing, but plans got tied up in zoning issues. I fear that the same is happening here. Fortunately, there is goodwill and continued conversation between Windsor, Village Council, and Antioch. I ask Village Council to focus your efforts on ensuring that dialogue turns into action so that the plans are not stalled. Additionally, Village Council and the Yellow Springs community can support Antioch as we work towards a reopening of Main Building and Kelly Hall. In spite of the many headwinds we are facing, we continue to invest in infrastructure, including recent repairs to the Foundry Theater and replacement of the roofs on Birch Hall and the Olive Kettering Library, to name a few. We're also currently working on McGregor Hall and have announced a collaborative campaign to resurface the tennis and pickleball courts. Ask anyone on our staff and you'll hear how hard we are working towards these and all of our goals, as well as teaching our current students. The work is monumental and transformative. We invite you to be a part of it to uplift the efforts to help our 175-year-old college thrive. Now is not the time to wait and see. It is the time to invest in these next steps and help us make them happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any other citizen concerns? I don't believe it. I think there are more citizen concerns. They're just not here right now. That's my guess. Okay.
Parking lot.
The next thing on the agenda is public hearings and legislation. We need to do the second read thing. Yes. Okay. If I could get a motion to not have to read the whole thing, that would be great.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Judy, if you don't mind reading second reading and public hearing of ordinance 2026-06 by title only, please.
Indeed. This is repealing and replacing Section 252.06 Personnel Policy Manual of the Codified Ordinances of the Village of Yellow Springs, Ohio, and approving revised Personnel Policy Manual.
Cool, thank you. Elise, I see you there. I think that means you're here, but first, get a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
So
Great.
motion to approve.
Oh, motion to approve.
Yeah, oh, sorry, a motion to approve. So I think we'll hear from Elise first, then ask any questions, so go forth.
Thank you. Good evening. Elise Jardillo, Assistant Village Manager. So this is the second and final reading of Ordinance 2026-06, which includes updates to the village's personnel policy manual. There have been no changes to the manual since it was presented at first reading, so everything's same as last time. At Gavin's request, the memo that was distributed to all village employees has been included in the packet this evening, so that memo highlights all of the most significant updates to the manual and is intended to provide a really clear summary of all the changes that were made. So I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it at the last meeting. Are there any other things that anybody's wondering about?
No? I agree.
So I'll just real quick, just to confirm,
Yep.
the last meeting report is still true in that the communication with staff has been good? There's not any, like, you know,
Correct.
notable new issue that's come up or anything?
No.
Great, glad to hear it. Okay, well, I guess we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor, say aye.
We do
Oh,
have to do
I have to do roll call on this one? Oh, public hearing. Okay, sorry. Public hearing. Thank you, Amy. Now we'll open the public hearing. Does say very clearly, public hearing. It's definitely on me. Okay, we will now close the public hearing, seeing as there's no public hearing. And now we will do the vote. All those in favor say aye.
But we
Oh,
do
we have to do a roll call still. Okay, thank you. And that is
do,
also
so-
written right here. Roll call. I'm just trying to go so fast. Okay,
I appreciate
go
it.
for it, Judy.
Okay. Shu,
Yes.
Samarin,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Pierce,
Yes.
DeBoer Leonard.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, Judy, if you don't mind reading emergency reading of ordinance 2026-07 by title only, please.
This is approving second quarter 2026 supplemental appropriations and declaring an emergency in the Village of Yellow Springs, Ohio.
Great. Could I get a motion to approve, or motion, yeah, to approve?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Michelle, go for it. Hello?
Hello, good evening. This is just some housekeeping items on the worksheet that I had attached. A lot of it, we received quite a few donations for lifeguard certifications. Sam did. She also received a grant from YS Community Foundation for Swim for All pass. She also received a $200 donation from the Baileys for the youth center. We had T-shirt sale donations. We had a $9,000, it was actually $10,000 grant from the Community Foundation. $9,000 is going to pool painting, and the other $1,000 was for the pool passes. And then the other one was an insurance reimbursement for the truck that was damaged, that was Ben's.
Great. John, did you have-
That is just for the reimbursement of the rental that
The rental. We
have
have-
up to date.
Yes,
The truck's still not finished and we're still renting the truck. I
right.
just
So
wanna
we'll
make
get
sure.
these checks in periodically, so I'm going to hold them all,
Correct.
do them as we get them in.
Okay. I think I'm just going to real quick do the formality, which is that this is a emergency reading. We don't have to do them, but we have typically done public hearings for emergency readings. So I will open the public hearing for this ordinance, if there's anything. All right, and we'll close the public hearing. Are there any questions or comment from anybody? Okay, we'll have to call a roll again, please.
Indeed. Samari.
Yes.
Pierce.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Shu.
Yes.
DeVore Leonard.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and next up is the reading of Resolution 2026-20. Judy, by title only, please.
This is authorizing the village manager to enter into an agreement with M&L Tree Services and Lawn Care LLC for 2026 utility line clearance, Section 4 of the village.
Okay, could I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Great, thank you. Johnny, is this one you?
This one's me. We went out for bid. We received one bid proposal. This is for Section 4 for $90,000. This is a gentleman and his company that has trimmed for, I think, the last 4 years. So they know the town, they know the residents. So we're asking for you to approve this order so he can get started on the tree trimming.
Great. Any questions for Johnny? And we agreed last time we're getting more of those Y-shaped trees, right? That's,
Every one of them.
okay, all right, okay.
Get some S ones. after
S's?
that.
Okay, all right, good, okay.
Hey, Johnny, since there was only one bid, did this align with what your expectation was?
Yes.
It did.
Yep.
All right, I think we can do a voice vote on this one, so all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, resolution's complete. Next up is special reports, of which we have none. So we'll go on to the manager's report. This is a manager's report that's sort of any questions people have, because this is the off meeting of the full manager's report. So anything you want to?
I do.
Throw in.
I do want to talk about the storm for a minute, but I want to back up to Sanai's question. This is the same price that we paid last year.
Is that-
So, huh?
It's like $5,000.
It's like $5,000 less. So even with the raise, but he drove around the village, he's seen that what he had cut the last time in this section has not overwhelmed, so 90,000. There is a memo, we're going to put it in a packet, but we also got it up there. This is just something to give you an overview of the storm that happened, 182 customers. We did call in one lineman from AMP, and we called in two linemen from Piqua because the staff had been out since 12:30, and versus them dragging all the way until midnight, we decided to call in some extra help. So the crews did an amazing job. Street crew did an amazing job. Water guys jumped in and helped the street crew, and all the linemen got the town up pretty fast, and and made sure it was done safely. Still doing some small stuff like street lights and some poles that they had temporary, but for the most part, we did it safely, and everybody went home, and all the people's power was back up by 7 o'clock at night. Ben, you want to show some of those pictures? That is some of the pictures. Majority of the trees, with the exception of the Bryant Center where you see we lost some of the crabapple trees, 90% of them were on homeowners' properties. We do have Enoch going to go back and check 3 of them that are on our right-of-ways. The ones down there on the bottom, that is actually the 3rd time that tree has lost a very large limb. That when I tell you large, it takes about 7 or 8 dump truck loads to get one limb out. So the center of that tree is full of topsoil, but that tree is about 7.5 to 10 feet in diameter. So we are going to have him verify it, that it needs to come down, but we strongly suggest it come down. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the crews. They did a fantastic job. Even the police dispatch, answering calls, making sure that they're taking notes in the police department. It was a great job. So,
Great.
so that's all I have.
Okay. Any other questions for Johnny on that or any other items in the manager's report? Okay. Moving on to old business. So the first item on the agenda is the parking discussion. So we've got 20 minutes slated for that. Then we've got 30 minutes slated for economic development, and then 15 minutes on strategic plan. So there were memos in the packet for all these topics, and my name is next to them, but primarily I'm just sort of facilitating the first 2. So on parking expansion, I guess, Elise, did you feel like starting? Is there anything you want to do a review, or Johnny?
Actually, Johnny's going to start on parking.
Okay,
I'll
cool.
start with parking.
Yeah.
Okay.
The parking plans that this all come back to light during the Short Street presentation. These are parking plans that we put in the comprehensive land use. They got pulled out. But there's always a talk about needing more parking downtown, needing more parking downtown. For me right now, it is not in the budget. We don't have anything budgeted to add more parking, to do any reconfiguration. I also say it's very important to let the schools get done with their construction and figure out their drop-off zones after their construction is before we start making plans and trying to figure out new parking areas. So the parking plans are in there. My suggestion is if we want to do something, we can pick on some small spots and maybe blacktop some areas over by Elm and Phillips, but we don't want to jump too far into this until after we see what the schools are going to be coming up with. And we are doing some corrective painting on some areas and re-highlighting that. So I think we should push this until we decide if it's a future thing that we need in the budget for 27, and if we feel it needs to be in 27 budget, we'll figure out how much we want to get done. These are concept plans. These are not engineered drawings to be able to go out for bid. So there's ballpark, there's a bunch of ideals, but nothing's concrete. Nothing's in stone.
Or blacktop.
Or blacktop,
Okay.
or crushed gravel, or,
Right.
yes.
Great. So I'm just as a framing for the discussion, we set our goals at the beginning, earlier this year on the sort of parking piece of the puzzle. The outcome was evaluation of village parking needs and if necessary, develop plan of action for new parking. And so there are some specific ideas that had come up in the Short Street conversation, I think triggered the discussion. So that's, I think about it as like ultimately what we're trying to do is to sort of close out doing these outcomes. And so this is part of, a piece in that conversation. So I guess I'll just kind of open it up. Are there responses, sort of questions, thoughts about what Johnny shared, or things that weren't shared but that you've been wondering about?
Yeah, I'll say that the memo is very helpful, and I completely understand about the phase that the school is in with their work. I think, something that was compelling to me in the conversations in Short Street were the 4 handicap spots that were in collaboration with the church, right, the Presbyterian. So I was wondering if you could speak to that, where that's at, and if that is their property or village property?
That is the church's property, and that was a collaboration. If Short Street went through, that they would be able to do that as well. So we have not picked up a conversation with that. It was, the village was going to do it on their property with their permission, and it would be a benefit to them on Sunday as well. So we have not picked that back up.
Okay.
I guess I'll jump in with one just to say, I definitely appreciate the idea of waiting until there's a more clarity about what's happening with the schools on the parking plans that are directly adjacent to Mills Lawn.
Correct.
It just seems like it would be silly to make a plan and then have to come back and go, wait a minute, now they want to do, because there's been some talk about pick up and drop off changing, and that brings, what is that, Elm Street into play in a
Yes.
way that it hasn't been in the way that pick up and drop off works now. So anyway, this is just me agreeing with the idea of let's wait and then hopefully communicate that.
Correct.
If the schools have some plan of how they want to do things, that we'd love to hear about it, and then we can check back in if it makes, if and when it makes sense after that. When do you know when they're slated to be done with construction at Mills Lawn?
August to November of 27.
Okay,
No, of 26, I'm sorry.
okay.
Of 26.
So probably by the end of the year.
By the end of the year,
but
they may
with
know.
some flexibility. Okay.
And
Anyway,
and Dr. Holden and Megan, the next superintendent, Megan, I think is Wilson.
Winston.
Winston, we've all been talking and collaborating back and forth, so we're trying to figure things out along with Jeff Hyrick.
Okay. So now it looked like maybe you started to say something. Does other folks have any questions or comments on parking?
No, it was really kind of attributed to the school portion, and just what that conversation looks like, where it stands, so that it's not, if this is pushed to January, which makes sense, or to see if it makes goals, that we're not rushing between October of 26 and January of 27. Because I know that there's, forecasting conversations, but you're already privy to it. And then, obviously, big question mark, budget aside, parking has been a big question for such a long time, which is why we put it on this schedule for today. Where do you see it in terms of just your personal purview? During the Short Street conversation, it was everything. There was so much around it. I just your sense of where it stands in terms of does this seem to be something that is an aggressive, goal for 27, or where do you view?
To do all the parking plans in 27, I think it's aggressive.
Yeah.
I think to do the parking plans, we thought they was necessary in 18. That's why we put them in the comprehensive land use plan. But others felt that they did not need to be in there, so we kind of put them on the back burner. So yes, they are on and off again topics. Normally when some things are trying to go one way or another way, parking gets thrown into the mix as a wild card to kind of throw it all apart. Well, same thing happened in Short Street conversation. Parking was a huge discussion.
Yeah.
And so we reached back in, pulled out the original plans, we put them back in there. There's some things that we can do on the cheaper part of it versus redeveloping everything. One of the big things is on Walnut Street. If we're going to do something there, Walnut Street will be the most expensive because we got to remove, which needs to be done. We got to remove the electric, and we got to relocate the fiber for the school. which is owned by Maveca, because it's overhead. And if you guys ever notice those poles, they're all laying over because they're actually sitting on limestone that is actually 3.5 feet under the ground. That's the reason why we got concrete blocks holding some up. So they need to go down. We've also got an easement from the school now. We did this during the transition of the new development or the new remodel of the school to their transformer to be able to feed that system. So the school gave us an easement to be able to tap into their transformer. So Walnut would be probably number one priority, but it's going to be the most expensive. But we can do some other things in the short term. You know, we put the bus pull off on Limestone, which has helped out tremendous. Now they're redoing that side. Now we had to put the bus drop off on the other side. We had to redo some handicap area. But the school is also, I will say, the school has paid some of the cost because they know that it's, some of the responsibility is on them as well. But
And I think it was in the Short Street presentation, but when you talk about the costs on Walnut Street, do you know what the ballpark is? It's okay. if not.
I don't remember,
Okay, that's
to be
fine.
off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah, and that would be, that, you do, or you said, look, you're looking it up, Elise? Okay. But yeah, but so Walnut, you're saying Walnut Street would be expensive, yes, but that's because of the involvement of
Correct.
the,
Multiple.
yeah, exactly, that's all of the utility and.
Correct.
And the, you know,
It would be the most beneficial and the most expensive out of all of them. But it would be so much better on Walnut Street
okay.
And why
So-
is that compared to?
because of the overhead power lines and the poles falling over. So,
Yeah, thanks. So so I think I hear you saying like this would be the most involved and it's the priority, but there could be other stuff going on before this major
Correct.
thing. I mean, like was that Phillips, Elm?
Elm and Phillips,
Phillips.
yes. Those are the cheaper part of them.
Sure.
Because seriously, I mean, there's no curbing.
Right.
We can just put blacktop up to the.
And then
edge
do
of
the
sidewalk,
striping.
And then do the striping,
Okay.
because the grading's pretty close.
So that's something that we would still consider for 27, but
yes.
but, I mean, as far as prioritizing, because it's so involved, Walnut
Correct.
Street, but in the interim, Phillips and Elm could be a thing.
Could be, yes.
Okay,
Along with the, the front of 80 Hughes could be a thing as well.
okay,
To be able to draw people back to that park, be able to have some handicap areas closer to the edge of town. If we wanted to put the diagonal parking in front of 80 Hughes, that would not be too much of a lift.
okay,
Or the pull-offs on Corey for the bike path.
Okay.
Just the bump outs, those are the cheap ones.
so those are things that are attainable
Correct.
more readily than Walnut Street, okay.
Can I
So-
just to clarify, I'm a little lost. It's priority not because of the parking location on Walnut, it's priority because that work needs to be done at some point for us as a safety issue. Is that, did I understand?
We should be concentrating on getting the power and the fiber below ground
Okay.
because of the height of
Okay,
the fiber's pretty low,
okay.
and we got concrete cinder block, well, not cinder blocks, concrete blocks that weigh 4,000 pounds pulling the pole back over because
Yeah.
it can't get deep enough.
Yeah, so if we're gonna have to do that project
Correct.
anyways,
That's the reason why we want to try
it'll
to
be
do
the
it all at
timing.
once.
Yeah, okay, I understand, thank you.
So, do you have a sense of, like, how much do you hear about parking outside of, like, it feels like once Short Street conversation started, it became a major topic. In the 2 years before that I was on council, it didn't feel like it came up that often. Is it a thing that, and I guess if folks that are here for economic development want to speak to it all later, you'd be welcome to for a moment, or you could jump in here. But is it something that you hear from key stakeholders that, parking is a downtown or anywhere else? Like, is it a thing that feels like an issue?
I don't think that I hear it as much as you would think that I hear it, especially with Railroad Street now. We've added parking behind the Bryant Center. We've added the parking lot on Cemetery Street, and they walk through the Glens. I've not heard a bunch of it, and then Short Street happened, and we hear a bunch of it. But, you know, we also don't hear a bunch of complaints about King's Yard and all that as well. So it's not as prominent as everybody thinks it is. Now, Philip may be able to tell you that the businesses are screaming that. I don't know that. But as far as us getting phone calls, do you remember anything?
No, nothing
I-
significant.
Yeah.
Okay. Other folks? Yeah, do you have something? Go ahead, jump in.
Hey, good evening, Philip with the Yellow Springs Chamber of Commerce. So with the parking situation, I think that we don't hear about it a lot because it's a given. So people don't continue to have outrage until it seems like you're going to lose parking. But when it comes to the parking conversation, it doesn't really need to be addressed every single time because it's like a rolling given. It hasn't been resolved, so the outrage really doesn't go anywhere. It's just like, okay, we just don't have parking. But then when Short Street comes in or anything else comes in that kind of interferes with the parking that we do have, then it's outrage.
Yeah.
But it's a given. Parking needs haven't gone anywhere, so it's not.
Meaning it's a given that there's a need for more parking.
It's a rolling concern.
Okay.
And there's only outrage or concern, additional concern when parking is taken away.
Got it. Okay, cool, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to address that one thing, though. Since 18, I can tell you that we have not taken, to my knowledge, other than Short Street, when we closed it, we have not taken spots away, but we've added Railroad Street completely, the 75 spots there. We've added 26 back here in the parking lot behind us, and we've added 30 over on Cemetery Street, so.
Cool, thank you. Other questions, comments, thoughts?
Yeah, I think my other thing is like some of this parking stuff is like the necessary ones. Some of them are like aspirational, you know, whether we talk about like Corey Street or whatnot. But I would like to see what I do think came like to light due to the Short Street conversation was the conversation that was around handicap parking and accessibility. I think that was very real, and I think we've done a good job of addressing it and like its importance with staff too. I think everybody's on the same page, and I think that's probably one of the things that we at least hopefully can control. I also commend staff. I know we got rid of those parking spots right in front of the community foundation that were blocking the views over there. That helped a lot, but maybe there's a separate category that's attributed directly towards this accessible parking. Because the more that I heard about it from my perspective, which I am very novice and didn't know this ahead of time, you know, just how disruptive it is for that Dayton Street, for those parking spots for the accessible community. Hearing from them really changed my outlook. And so I think that's something that we should continue to address and not let that one get till, you know, the end of the year for the time, just conversationally. That would be my 2 cents.
That's a great point to make.
So let me just make sure I heard that correctly. And Stephanie, you're saying you agree. You're saying you'd like to talk more about handicap parking, accessible parking options.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Is it something that y'all have sort of thought about or already have ideas around, or is that like we would need to give some more clarity about what it is that we're interested in talking about and communicate that?
I think clarity from you guys, because choice one is our engineers. We can have them come look at it. Handicap parking is not just painting lines and making it happen. It's got to meet everything. So if we want to have the downtown looked at by the engineers, we sure can do that. They did it for the school signs, so they can come in and look at it for the parking lots and the village-owned parking lots and for the downtown area.
What does that cost?
Probably, I'm going to say less than $1,000.
Okay, so not very much.
Not very much.
Well, I guess seeing the comments and the I think one point of clarification, or one point of clarity of giving more clarity of communication of what might be useful. It seems like doing an assessment of, does that sound good, the idea of doing engineering assessment around
Sure.
handicap
And,
accessible
like,
parking?
Yeah, and if it's for the whole town for 1,000, the whole downtown area, the whole town, that's good. I would like to focus on Beatty Hughes and Corey Street.
And one thing that I can say is I did send the PowerPoint presentation that Mitzi sent to us, and I'm having them
Okay.
review that, so they've already got a head start on reviewing the whole area. And then we can look at, Carmen, are you asking for numbers for like what it would be if we put handicap parking at Beatty Hughes? Okay. And we can do that.
You're saying like the cost to do it? Is that what you're asking about?
See if they can give me a ballpark on that. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say one other thing, just for clarity purposes. I know Carmen mentioned Beatty Hughes and the other one. I wasn't necessarily focused on Beatty Hughes. Mine was more just existing parking and what can be transitioned into potential, right? I think that's a bigger kind of project, the creation of new parking spaces. I was more so the transition from current use to a second use, just to put that out there.
Got
I also think they ought to be able to tell us how many we actually need for the downtown area.
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Cool, thank you. So I think what I'm hearing is one next step, which is gather some more information from the engineer about parking needs, particularly focused on handicap accessible parking in the downtown. And then parking costs being a consideration in the budget that would then be considered as something that could be on the docket for 2027. Is there anything else that anybody is wanting to talk about related to parking or expecting to talk about related to parking besides those two items? Okay, I let Philip speak because we were asking about a stakeholder, but Mitzi, come on up and try to keep it relatively short, and then now I will be better at keeping the rules.
I just gave Elise and Johnny a survey that I did in the village regarding excess parking. And I'm waiting, and I've chosen not to share it with council until I have shared it with them first. That will be this Thursday. I address businesses, I address accessible parking downtown, and possible options of other areas like Dayton Street that doesn't have any accessible parking. So you'll have that information too. And I just wanted to share that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, well, hearing nothing else, we'll keep it moving. Is that okay? All right. Next up on the agenda is economic development. So again, the context on this, we talked in our goals about clarifying the role of the village in economic development, including expectations for intergovernmental communication to support long-term planning, and we had outcomes around discuss and then document our role, and then communicate that role to relevant stakeholders and align related staffing and budget allocations. So tonight, we're hopefully taking a step in that direction. And Johnny or Elise, do one of y'all want to share initial thoughts from the memo you shared?
Elise Jardulo, Assistant Village Manager. So yeah, this item relates to one of Council's economic development goals that you all adopted specifically to clarify the village's role in economic development, including how we coordinate with partners and support long-term planning. The outcomes that Council identified for this goal include defining and documenting the village's role, communicating that role to stakeholders, and aligning staffing and resources accordingly. So the memo that staff has provided tonight is intended as a starting point for discussion, not a final framework by any means. It is organized around 3 key questions. 1, what is the village's role in economic development? 2, what are we currently doing or should we be doing to support that role? And then 3, where are the gaps? So I'll start by briefly walking through the tables that outline staff understanding of the village's role and the activities that support each area. So the first, and we've got these up on screen as well, the first is land use regulation. So this is one of the village's core functions, and it includes zoning administration, development review and permitting, and identifying and advancing zoning code updates through Planning Commission. The second is infrastructure stewardship. This very much focuses on capital improvements such as streets, utilities, and public spaces that support economic activity, as well as ongoing maintenance, particularly in commercial areas and corridors. Third, convener and stakeholder partner. In this role, the village builds relationships with major employers in the village to better understand their needs, support retention and expansion, and ensure that we are aligned on long-term planning efforts, as well as coordinating with organizations like the Chamber, YSDC, and regional partners. Business development and support. This includes serving as a point of contact for businesses and developers, helping navigate village processes, supporting the marketing of our Center for Business and Education, and engaging with regional partners and developers on available sites and opportunities. And then finally, community activity support. So this is often less formal, but still a very important part of economic vitality, supporting events like Street Fair, Art on the Lawn, Pride, the list sort of goes on, primarily through police and public works services, which helps draw visitors and supports local businesses. So going to the next table, we've outlined several gaps and considerations for council's discussion. The first, role clarity across organizations. There can be overlap or lack of clarity between the village, chamber, YSDC, and others, which can create confusion or inefficiencies. Second, capacity and organizational alignment. While we do have a planning and economic development coordinator position, it is currently focused on planning and zoning functions in the absence of a planning director. This has limited the village's ability to take on more proactive economic development activities. Third, strategic alignment. So there are opportunities to better align our economic development efforts across village planning efforts, infrastructure investments, available and marketable sites, as well as coordination with YSDC. And finally, tools and policies. While we do have tools like a TIF and CRA programs, along with generally supporting zoning for infill development, there may be some opportunities to reevaluate how those tools are used, consider additional or complementary strategies, while recognizing that more significant zoning code changes would require substantial staff time and trade off with other priorities. So again, intended to just help frame the discussion around economic development. And I'm happy to answer any questions, or I can pass it back to you, Gavin.
Yeah, sounds good. I think we'll take questions, and I should have said, so YSDC folks and chamber folks were invited to come to share for 3 to 5 minutes also. So maybe we'll start with any kind of initial questions for Elise, and then we'll go alphabetically. How about that? Chamber, then YSDC, if that's okay. Here in a few minutes. So yeah, questions or comments for Elise or Johnny from the memo? So I'll throw one out. So take like something like the CBE, for example. It feels like there was a long time where not much happened, right? Is that fair?
That's fair.
I don't mean to be, I'm just trying to. Nope. And then, so is this an area where, like, if we put it in, like, here's a role, like, this is a thing that we want to do, that would be like a new activity, effectively, right? We have the partnership with a realtor, right? That's
Not more.
not anymore. Okay. So anyway, I'm just trying to think about like which of these things, and we don't need to figure it out tonight, but just the broad sort of comment or question is like, what things do we have capacity for, and or our ongoing activities, or which of these things might be things that would be new, or things that we would need to figure out, hey, where's the staff time or the money going to come from to have that role fulfilled? Anyway.
For the CBE, for us to market it, We also use Dayton Development Corporation. We've given them all the information so that Ohio Jobs can be aware that we have places over there that needs to be built. We go through the chamber, through YSDC is also backboning it. So right now, Allison did not renew. She needed to focus more on her business at hand. So right now, I don't think, I think we want to wait before we move any further and see if we get any movement from Ohio Needs Jobs, or we can look at getting another realtor to market it as well. It does not cost to have a realtor take us on. It's just they're putting it out there.
Maybe just a follow-up, if we get, this is just
Yes.
starting a conversation. So then when we hired for the planning, or as we're doing hiring for planning and zoning administrator, are there parts of this set of roles and responsibilities that are like, these are things like, so for example, the land use regulation, I assume, is clearly in the zoning, we're going to do that. There are some of these that it feels like it's more, we didn't do it before, then we started doing it, and now is it sort of a question? Like we're trying to figure out which of the things we'll do?
No, I think I can go back to back when Denise Swinger was here. She worked with economic developments as well. And so she was always going to the MVRPC and putting our names out there. She was actually sitting in the seat when the chambers, Karen Wintrow got the information for Cresco and then brought it over and we all jumped on. The new person that we've hired for zoning does have some of that background as well. And that was one of the questions during the interview is what kind of experience do you bring at that? And it was like, oh, well, I got people that I can call. And she's been that route. So I don't think it's anything new. I just think it's something that nobody has been active in doing this. So we got a lot of different avenues that we can try to advertise for the CBE right now. That is not going to cost us money.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Elise or Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, I think the conversation will gain a little bit more clarity once we hear from YSDC and Chamber.
Yeah, and we can always have them come back.
For
up,
sure,
yeah.
because there's going to be overlap, I know, moving forward. But, you know, I think from what I read of this, that I'm hearing loud and clear is, you know, how involved can we be without the manpower as well? So that's what we're trying to flesh out here, is define targeted lanes, not just of the council, but with Chamber, with YSDC, with other entities as well within the community, so that we can move forward. I hear you when you say, like, based off of what we have, this is what we potentially can do. Also, the new hire is, or at some point, I forgot when I was researching, you know, that position switched over mostly to like a planning, right? Like, or to more like zoning, correct? The economic development position.
It's always been zoning, and then they
Yeah.
had an economic part of that zoning.
And so that, you know, that position, it doesn't necessarily clarify what we're talking about, like in terms of proactive economic development, as opposed to foundational, institutional, just the structure as well. But, you know, it's interesting, right? Because if we look at the village, things that it looks like we, from both staff, council, community, we have zoning and permitting, code enforcement, potentially the tax tools that we discussed, you know, kind of accountability framework potentially. And I think that's where we're trying to carve out is each lane. I think this is a good starting point. And I think hopefully, like, at the end of, whether it's 60 days, I forgot what our goal sheet was, but the term that I was using when talking to the YSDC as well as the Chamber is, you know, this kind of 90-day sprint to define roles. And maybe at the end of this, we come up with some sort of MOU, like a memorandum of understanding of responsibilities between all parties, so that there are crystal clear kind of guidelines moving forward. Because I think we have an understanding amongst the organizations and entities, but I think villagers who are a part of this component maybe also need to be educated to this as well. But this is great. Thank you.
Anybody else for now? Okay. We might bring you back, but thank you. Sorry, I just realized I have pollen in my hair. Philip, do you mind coming up and sharing thoughts from the chamber? Thank you.
Does anybody else feel like maybe we should have them both go or question individually? Like I kind of feel like it might be more advantageous to hear from both parts.
Both, and
Chamber.
then-
and
So
then-
1, 2, and then questions for all after
Yeah.
that. Or comments from all, yeah.
YSDC is a little bit more aligned with what you just heard. I want to hear them before me, but here I am.
Here you are.
So good evening, members of Village Council as well as the community. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss the role of the Yellow Springs Chamber of Commerce, our contributions to economic development, and our commitment to the continued success of this community. We don't have any visuals. I'll just be reading this, which is also in the packet. The Chamber exists to strengthen our local economy, support businesses' success and expansion, and elevate Yellow Springs as one of the most distinctive and desirable communities in Ohio. While we are a member-centered 501c6 nonprofit organization, our impact extends far beyond our membership. We serve as a connector, an advocate, and an economic catalyst for the village and its stakeholders. Today, the Chamber represents 268 members, including businesses, nonprofits, and community partners. We welcomed 72 new members in 2025 alone, a clear sign of continued confidence in Yellow Springs and its economic future. Our impact is visible in events and experiences that bring this community to life and generate a measurable economic activity. We produce the Yellow Springs Street Fair, Holiday in the Springs, Small Business Weekend, Cider Days. Coming up on May 15th, we have the YS Art Stroll, and the 4th of July celebration, and more. Street Fair alone attracts more than 50,000 visitors annually, making it one of the largest economic drivers in Greene County for our business district. Those visitors shop in our stores, dine in our restaurants, discover our local brands, and return throughout the year. We also play a critical role in business retention and support. Through more than 50 annual engagement opportunities, networking events, collaborations, and direct outreach, we help businesses build relationships, solve challenges, and stay connected to resources they may not be aware of. We hear directly from business owners and can provide real-time insight into workforce needs, operating concerns, barriers to growth. The YS Chamber is also one of the strongest local marketing engines. Through 8 social media channels, 2 websites, 2 weekly newsletters, and a global events calendar, we generate more than 5.2 million impressions annually. This actively promotes Yellow Springs to residents, visitors, and future customers, as well as neighbors, assisting with customer traffic, economic reach, and sustained vitality. Yellow Springs already possesses assets many communities spend decades trying to create and then recreate: identity, authenticity, creativity, culture, and extraordinary visitor loyalty. Our responsibility now is to convert those strengths into sustained economic opportunity while protecting what makes this place special. That requires collaboration, communication, continued investment in the systems that support local business success. The Chamber stands ready to continue partnering with village leadership, community stakeholders, and regional partners to help move that work forward as a critical part of local economic development, because a thriving Yellow Springs requires a thriving business community. So I thank you for letting me share that, and I'll take any questions you might have.
Great, thank you. I think we're going to go YSCC, and then we'll do any questions or comments after that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can you go over mine too? Great speaker.
Hi, I'm Lisa Abel. I'm the Executive Director of Yellow Springs Development Corporation, and Michael Slaughter is here. He's our board president. Thank you for inviting us to speak today. You've received several things in your packet. I'm not going to read them to you. But just some summary information about YSDC and what a CIC is in Ohio, and a little bit of information about our marketing efforts. A few things of particular note in the materials. One is that Village Council and Miami Township designated YSDC as their economic development agent in 2020. So we serve at your pleasure. Economic development interests are clearly represented as voting members on the YSDC board, and that's in the packet in terms of which entities are there. But we probably still don't cover everybody who helps, who contributes significantly to economic development, but we have a pretty decent representation. So I didn't want to really cover too much about who we are and what we do, because I thought that could be read separately, but I do want to address the question of gaps and issues with economic development in the village. The first is, and Judy, I'll give you a copy of this, so you don't have to retype. The first is we need an overall strategy that satisfies the needs of local government and its residents. While YSDC has taken on several projects related to economic development, it is not clear at the village-wide level that this work fits with a community strategy. Without such a strategy, do we know if the various groups affecting economic development are rowing in the same direction? And toward what? Second thing, we need to frame and focus on economic development as it affects the whole, not the parts. We need to better describe and reinforce how all of these things are connected, and I've got a long list. And these are all connected, but it's hard to make those connections when we just focus on one thing. Affordable living, culture, diversity, economic development, housing needs, living wage jobs, local schools and services, public school system, local goods and services, public school system, taxes and utility costs, and a vibrant downtown. Number three, we need to understand roles and responsibilities among YSDC, the village, Miami Township, Chamber of Commerce, the Community Foundation, 365 Project, Home Inc., and any others who directly affect economic development, such as Mr. Chappelle. If YSDC is not the place for regular means of communication and information sharing, what is? I've heard maybe we should set up a committee with all these stakeholders, and I said, well, we have them, but maybe you don't want to do that. Number five, identify the leads for maintaining and building a regional presence of Yellow Springs representing all aspects of the village and township economic development. And this is that regional presence thing, and it's always unclear to me who's going to what meetings and who should be, and can we add more people to represent Yellow Springs? So that's what that speaks to. And then the last one is to coordinate and collaborate on funding opportunities and grant writing for impactful outcomes. But maybe do better together. So that's it.
Great, thank you. Not that you're, do you have anything you were going to add? Got it, okay. Okay, well, either any questions or anything for the Chamber or YSDC, or, yeah, any broader questions anybody has? Or comments?
Anybody else want to start?
Go for it.
No. Well, first of all, thank you. Also, Philip, yes, you are an exemplary presenter. Lisa, you did a fantastic job. This one's a little bit easier, I think, to have the conversation, because I do think there's some distinction between like the Chamber and YSDC in general. But again, this isn't Chamber versus YSDC versus Village. I think the goal of this, again, is just for realignment. Not even realignment, just alignment as a whole. And so hearing from Philip and understanding what they pour into the village and its business infrastructure is fantastic. So thank you, and everything that you do. And Lisa and Michael, same goes for you. I think the largest thing here is as it pertains to, let's start with YSDC, is they are the designated CIC. And that has a very vast, like, ambitious designation. Ambitious in the sense of the, what did I write down? The we are seeking list. Like, this is the things that we are seeking to do. But also understanding and acknowledging that the manpower behind it is rather limited. On the other side, they also, YSDC isn't like a singular person. It is a a group. It is an entity. There's two of us who are members of it. The chamber has a membership. Miami Township has members. So it is that organization that Lisa was saying is, I wish there was a group that should be able to answer this. It's them. And it's us, not just them, but because we are a part of that organization. So I want people to understand that. Getting into the nitty-gritty, I think because it is so vast what they can do, I think that's probably where the conversation comes in. And not to say that we should dwindle it down, but just be made aware that this is in their purview. Of course, like right now, a lot of the focal point is on the former hardware store, but that's also within their purview, right? And all contrary to what a lot of people might be hearing. So now, what else is that the mission that is going to take up all of its time for the next year or year and a half? Or can we get back to the rest of the we are seeking list, which is retention, recruitment, visibility to potential outside entities, right? Who's providing business support. So that's really what this is about, is that so that we can understand not just where we are right now, but where we are trying to go. And I think we've had some very fruitful conversations recently with both entities, and this was a great start. I'll wait to dive into anything deep, but I think that's the biggest thing, is this designation. All of the influence and power that the YSDC has is at the request of the village, right? This isn't a separate entity, a private group. They are an extension of us. And granted, we didn't have that signed plan that we brought up. We can do that. That's not an issue. But I think before we do any of those things, it's pretty imperative that we have these discussions and over the next 90 days to kind of clarify it a little bit more. Anybody else?
Well, I think a follow-up, maybe Lisa for you, but for everybody. You mentioned in the gaps the strategy piece, right? And so is it any more complicated than, does there need to be some step taken to say, hey, because that's the part where I'm that's the part I want. Because I want to know, well, do we want more tourism? Do we want more of a certain kind? What is our direction? It doesn't seem to me that we have it. I think that's what you're saying when you're talking about a gap around strategy. So is there anything that, how do we get from not having a strategy to having a strategy? Do y'all have thoughts on that initially?
I could start briefly, and then you guys could, if you want to. I think one of the things that we discussed was do we have an issue in the village of are we not attractive as a fertile ground for business? I would argue that we're actually we create a good environment for that. We don't have a problem where if we have a vacancy, tenants aren't trying to get in. I think one of the things that if we really were to dive deep, we might have some sort of ownership issue, right? Where maybe we don't have the space available, or it's not opening up for potential leases in a timely fashion, or there's so much deferred maintenance to a building that it's offsetting or off-putting to a potential tenant. And without naming names, you can see where what happens if we push the buck down further, with more of those properties and locations to come in the very near future. And so, as we see it now, there are large entities that own a vast swath of the downtown business corridor that simply and bluntly put aren't available for lease. And so is that an issue of staff or of YSDC or of council or the chamber? Or is that an issue that we just collectively have to solve? And so I think sometimes a lot of these entities get unfairly blamed for what's happening, when I think there are a lot of macro factors happening around it as well. So I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Nope, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I was on the Community Resources, which was the predecessor to YSDC. And when I was asked to be on YSDC, I was very skeptical, because I had a pretty bad experience with how the community saw the work of Community Resources and the work of economic development. So I would say I still have a lot of healthy skepticism, especially around whether the community actually embraces economic development. What you're speaking of, Sanai, is downtown. Certainly, that seems to be okay, but we did, in one of our town halls here, some I don't know, kind of around the fringes conversation around, are we trying to just do everything to please the tourists? What are we doing for the residents? And so, so that's one piece of the downtown dilemma, I would say. In terms of welcoming for other types of business, I don't think we really are. I think we have a lot of attractions that we think should attract folks to want to do business here, but we also we show up in the paper negatively a lot, not locally necessarily, but regionally in the news. Whenever, just about anytime Yellow Springs is mentioned in the past couple of years, it's been in a negative light. So why would I do business there when it seems really controversial to do anything there? So that, I think, is the problem. So are we committed to living wage economic development, which would likely happen at the CBE, could happen at Millworks as those businesses grow and move or move out, and then where else? We're kind of landlocked after that. Now, I'm not saying that the CBE could still take years to find the right partners to move in, but it's more a question of, are we really interested in that as a village, not just as council, not just as YSDC, not just as the chamber, but as a village? Is that really important? And that, I think, is where we need to draw those lines. Living wage jobs affects your taxes, affects your utilities, affects affordable living, affects, culture, diversity. I mean, it affects all those things, but we don't draw that picture enough. So that's my 2 cents.
I think also, as far as the CBE and development goes that way, things are so volatile right now, and it's really tricky business for smaller industry to get started, to maintain, also, and it's like that across the board. And yes, on the as far as being mentioned in the media or when the stories were in the news, it's not positive all the time. And also, I mean, maybe we need, we need something. We need a public relations firm. I mean, or
right,
or is it, it's nothing separate from the other ever. So if someone came to the CBE and they're like, hi, we have this new widget and it falls in line with what Yellow Springs values are and we want to do it, and also there's no place for our workers to live.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the whole.
Right.
It all fits. That's exactly right. Yep.
And so which comes first?
Yeah, if I had that answer.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa and I and Michael had this conversation, right, the other day, and it really was aligned exactly with what you're talking about. And, not to go off script, but housing is economic development.
Yeah,
it is definitively a large part of economic development. There's no separating the two. I think most of the conversation that we're discussing, though, is this downtown business vitality extended out to the CBE. But again, you talk about the CBE and how we attract. Is it through the chamber, who does such a good job of marketing already? Or is it that one of those line items is somebody who potentially through one of the entities is that salesperson who their job is to promote the CBE or the spaces to attract that anchor tenant? I think that's kind of where you were going. It's like a PR firm, but an individual. Because that's a massive position, right? But I think this conversation.
I just want to say too, that Alice Moody did an amazing job. I mean, with promoting that space, she did an amazing job with that space, and had some right there.
Yeah,
correct. She had 4 or 5 different places they just fell through.
Yeah.
So Michael, and I see you want to jump into, and then we'll probably start wrapping up here in a minute. So yeah, go for it.
Part of the reason I joined YSDC was to bring economic development from a different perspective of downtown by going to the Intels and those companies out there that are building around the state, and they have a ton of subcontractors. A lot of those are small offices located somewhere between Columbus and Wright Pat or whatever, because they do business all over the state. So my vision was, whatever on CBE, you could have a number of these satellite offices. They don't build anything, the equipment's safe, they go install whatever it is in Intel and all these facilities, and they come back and get parts and that type of thing and do sales and marketing type efforts. But that was my thought with YSDC initially, and we still have that plan. We put presentations together. We had a preliminary meeting here with probably Ohio Jobs, and there were a number of people that Brian brought in, and we did a mini presentation, and their comment was, wow, we didn't know Yellow Springs was open for business.
Correct.
So we just need to go talk and tell the story as much as we can. And Allison did a great job with the CBE, but have we gotten anything from Ohio Jobs to ask about the CBE, or does anything come in from that? Probably not, right? So you got to beat the bushes. But who is going to beat the bushes? Us? You guys? Who's going to go knock on the doors and go to all those meetings?
Yep.
And we can figure that out.
Yeah. But again, I think that this was great for the making sure that we're not spreading our, like, we're so laser focused on one project that we're not losing sight of what the actual goal of these entities are, right? The Chamber does a lot more than street fair. YSDC is doing a lot more than 252 Xenia, right? And so they are massive, like, that does have our attention, but we can't afford to be like pigeonholed into those specific things. We have to force ourselves to go wide. And so I'm pretty excited about where we are and where we stand.
Cool. Philip?
Thank you, Philip O'Rourke, Executive Director of the Chamber. I wanted to, and I appreciate what Lisa said about, I'm coming from a PR standpoint at this point. Sometimes we have the propensity as humans to amplify the most negative voices and hear those louder than some of the positive things that happen. We do that in open discussion. We do that in some of our projects. And we also do that in the media. And I want to raise our eyes up just a little bit, because I think that Yellow Springs has a better reputation than we give it credit for. And some of those things, just even recently with WYSO, some of those things even from 2025, us being named the best hometown, there's so much that's happening in the expansion and celebration of downtown. We had some different businesses expand last year. We have a business about to celebrate turning 17. We had a business that turned 3. So I don't want us to fall into the trap of thinking that there's a red flag around Yellow Springs, because sometimes it's us that sees those flags, but people who are watching don't. It's easy for us to see the dust, and sometimes other people see the beauty, but we notice everything because we're so close. So when it comes to, I'm very encouraged by this conversation. I am a huge proponent of strategy. I'm a huge proponent of collaboration, and I'm an even huger proponent of clarity.
Yeah.
I appreciate the work that the Chamber does, me currently and before me. I applaud the work the YSDC has done with me there currently and before me and even beyond me. There have been some incredible projects, and I am appreciative of the work that the village has done when it comes to economic development. Many times the reasons why things have become so difficult to tackle is because of lack of clarity when it comes to roles and responsibilities. And that's why sometimes the lines get blurred and everybody really wants to help. So I think this kind of clarity, this kind of specificity will absolutely make room. It'll itemize what is available. It'll itemize who is available. And I think it'll increase and amplify the success that we'll all have. But I just wanted to be the voice on the PR side that says, yes, Yellow Springs is open for business. And to that fact, in the middle of Street Fair, on the 13th on Saturday, Ohio Magazine will be here on the stage at 12 o'clock to present the entire community with the Best Ohio Award. Did I say that right? Best hometown, excuse me.
We'll take it.
So I just got excited. So I just want to raise our eyes up just a little bit. You know, we're a great place, and everybody knows that, and we just have to agree with it in those times that it's difficult.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, I know we're,
So-
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, good.
No, I was going to say, I know we're rolling on time right now. So I just wanted to thank the Chamber, YSDC, Johnny at least, for putting together our part, the parts for the village as well. And so, like, again, it wasn't necessarily to draw into the weeds this conversation, but was to simply get this conversation going. And I think you could see, like, we could continue this for quite some time. I mean, there are, you know, Keith's Alley is a conversation now with what, you know, the new merch shop over there. What is that going to be in terms of, we've had conversations about pop-ups and, you know, mixed use, like defaults instead of like mixed use exemptions, right? There are a lot of things that once we start talking, we can go very deep. But I think at this point right now, I think this is a great starting point to get this, what I call this 90-day sprint into hopefully like a memorandum of understanding as it pertains to economic development.
So maybe as an attempt to kind of wrap up, you mentioned the 90-day sprint a few times.
Yeah.
I like you kind of doing like a first 100 days situation.
Yeah.
So what about the idea of, is it worth kind of noting, maybe we check back in something like 90 days and do, it sounds like you're part of some conversations. You know, obviously, especially with the planning and zoning administrator coming into play, you know, the staff's part of conversations. So does something like checking in roughly 3 months sound like a good idea to maybe try to hone in a little bit? I think you're hearing a bunch of alignment around interest and strategy.
Yeah, I think, you know, again, to make sure to minimize the amount of work that has to fall back on staff was to present the clarity first, as opposed to dragging you all into it. So the 90 days that we had discussed was amongst ourselves, and there's other stakeholders, right? There's the Community Foundation, there's 365 Project. We talked about a lot of other ones that can come back in to help with this, and then present it at 90 days, and then start moving forward as a unit. So, yeah.
Okay. Sounds like a good thing. Any other questions or comments before we wrap up, or expectations of next steps? Okay, well, I want to echo Sanai, thanks for being here, really appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for coming and presenting stuff and putting things in the packet too, really appreciate it. Excuse me. Okay, next up is talking about strategic plan. Flip back over to my other page here. So this is stuff that I had put in the packet. A couple meetings ago, we had talked about it, and then I had a memo and an RFQ. So maybe I'll just start out by saying, without needing to, you know, kind of go over things that are already all written down, are there any kind of initial questions or comments after checking out the memo or the RFQ draft that anybody wants to share? If not, then I'll dig into a couple of the questions as soon as I find the memo document here. But anything that jumped out at anybody they want to share? Okay. I know that one of the questions was around timeline. So I think wanted to sort of get a sense from folks of how does the timeline, you know, seem? So the current draft, I put in a initial deadline of trying to get something out by the 19th of May, and then submissions by July the 6th. I have not wed to this at all. I was just trying to get something started. So just, I guess, initial response, I think maybe from staff, the question to think about is like, are you okay with being sort of one of the points of contact? And does, you know, over the next couple weeks, if we worked on, you know, reviewing the RFQ and making any sort of edits or changes that sound reasonable? I think the main question for council is, does that timeline sound okay? Because it would happen over the next weeks before we met again, or you're like, hey, no, wait a minute, we need some more time to think about this, and I don't mean to pressure, I'm just trying to, I don't want to delay it for no reason, but if, people have, thoughts and feedback about timeline that we should take into account, then definitely want to. So maybe I'll throw that out there as a question.
I'll just say May 19th is going to be a huge challenge for us as staff because, if I'm not mistaken, May 18th is a very large council meeting, correct?
Yes.
So therefore, I think if we push it, it will help us to be able to focus on some council stuff, to be able to, maybe we can push it 1st of June to get for that.
Okay. So using that as a baseline, it's fine with me. Does anybody have a problem with the idea of pushing out a couple more weeks, trying to shoot for, and I know when Judy had looked at it, she had asked about, do we really need, essentially 2 months on submission? Just to say, when I was looking over examples, it seems like something like 6 to 8 weeks is pretty common.
Yep.
So, you do anything too much shorter than that, it seems like you're kind of outside the norm. Any longer than that seems like it's outside the norm.
Right.
Okay, so hearing nothing on that, I'll just assume that generally shooting for early June, and then somewhere, are you nodding along saying that 6 to 8 week window feels
Yeah,
pretty
I
good?
would agree, yes.
Okay. And one of the things that was really helpful in looking into this is so for example, the American Planning Association is clearly the main go-to place where you give them your RFQs and RFPs and everything, and then they distribute it. So there's still work we can do to distribute, and I think we should all be thinking about, if you know anyone that might be interested in this, start thinking about spreading it out. But there are some pretty sort of already existing resources that it's really common to distribute this to, and it shouldn't be too big of a deal.
We have some engineering firms that we can send it to as well that send it to strategic planners.
Great. Yeah, and I think I mentioned here, I talk with folks in Oberlin and in Athens. They have firms that they worked with, so I kind of started a list of, here's the firms that are popping up, to just make sure they get they get an email to say, hey, there's a RFQ out here if you're interested. And I don't want to, I guess, dig into it too much. I tried to summarize it in a paragraph, but does this feel like it landed in the right place on the RFQ idea of trying to gather ideas about firms that might fit without specifically asking them for, here is how we would do the whole, strategy? Seeing Johnny nodding, I guess, yeah, go ahead.
I would also say that the managers group, I could send email out to the managers group to see if anybody has anybody that they would recommend us sending it to as well.
That'd be great, because I know, I think I mentioned here, some of the communities that are right around here, one of the things that was helpful looking into this is this isn't like rocket science. Lots of people do it. The one thing that was interesting I mentioned in the memo is that, I think our comp plan is a really good sort of foundational document, and the idea of having something that's sort of, kind of here is where we're going over the next 5 years. And I think there's some places in the comp plan where I think the strategic plan will help clarify, people are defining this differently or thinking about this differently. When I talk to folks in Athens, for example, they're doing like a 5-year, they're now on a cycle of reviewing their comp plan every 5 years. And they're not doing like a big, they said their first one cost, $200,000. They're not doing a big overhaul every 5 years. They're just doing sort of a review, hone, update. And I feel like this seems like the timing could go pretty well with, the since 2020 on our comp plan too.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess, anybody have any other feedback or input? I would say if you have text changes, suggestions of how we're communicating about the community, I think if you could send those to Judy, I think that's the appropriate way to do it. This is definitely meant as a draft, very open. So I would say if people send minor changes, I'm assuming that we'll just integrate them all and it'll be okay. If people send you have a notable substantive change that feels like we need to come back, then we could put some time on the next agenda. But if it's a series of, smaller edits or suggestions, then we can just integrate those into the final version and send that around before it's distributed. Okay.
I would also like to say you did a fantastic job putting this together. Just give you a round of applause. This was a very thorough, well-written document.
Thanks. I don't know if I said it. I originally blocked an hour on my schedule, and then that was clearly ridiculous. So it took a little more than an hour, but it was, I think it's really interesting, honestly, especially talking to other communities about how they're navigating, making, deciding their strategies, and I don't know, it's really interesting. I think it'll be a fun process, really.
And similar to what Johnny said for his mayor's group, if this is something that aligns all, the MBRPC, the regional planning, this is something I could easily bring up there as well. And we have a meeting, actually, that'll be next month, but we have one this week, too.
I think we're in the phase, given what people are saying here, that if you're going to meetings over the next few weeks where it might be relevant, start letting, because it is like the kind of thing where you worry that the wrong person will just miss the email.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know how many responses we'll get. So maybe it'll be so many that we're having to pick and choose, but I get a little nervous that there won't be that many that'll be interested. So definitely get the word out.
So context, like, we're drafting an RFQ, so if you have any interest.
Exactly.
Then they will have more than a draft soon.
Yep.
And you should be looking out for it.
Totally.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, I'm going to keep us moving. The next thing that is on the agenda is new business, and that conversation is around a data center moratorium discussion, and this will be you, Stephanie, so I'll hand it over.
Well, I don't think, I submitted a memo. I don't think I need to read the whole thing. I think it kind of goes without saying that the effects that we are well aware of the general effects of data centers, and we know that really doesn't align with our values here in Yellow Springs. And so it's just putting the brakes on that until we can see, take a look at what those effects really are. Also, there's an initiative, of course, across the state in general about having them banned, but it just puts the brakes on it here in Yellow Springs until there's more information. And an educated decision can be made before, someone comes in trying to build something. So, yeah.
And
Been a lot of discussion.
I feel like it's like a weekly, at least, if not daily occurrence that I see in the paper, or get this is happening in many other places, right?
Yeah,
The idea of moratoriums happening in other communities. There's a bunch of places taking pauses, because then there's many other places that are in big fights over it, right?
Right.
Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, under the guise of economic development, these huge places that don't employ 10 to 20 people, and for a very brief amount of time, maybe up construction. So let's see, just to add, the largest impact that I put in this memo also, I had a memo in, is energy consumption. So a hyperscale data center, which is one of the giant ones, I put AI's Colossus in here. So AI's Colossus also uses about 100 megawatts of electricity constantly. It's a constant draw on the grid. That's a lot of houses, 75K to 100K. It's a lot of power. But one of the things that Colossus is doing in Tennessee, and it's XAI's project, large data centers are going in to areas that are primarily the center of poor Black and brown neighborhoods and Black and brown communities. And the inevitable pollution from these generators impact the health of nearby residents already plagued with high incidences of respiratory issues on a massive scale. When I was in another life, I worked for Greenpeace, if anybody remembers Greenpeace, and I canvassed in an area, a suburb of Detroit, Royal Oak, where they're going to build a huge incinerator. So it wasn't just obviously Black and brown people that were affected. It was, or people who were like, Italian and Irish immigrants. It was just across the board, low economic, very, very poor suburb. And they didn't build it there, but that's where all these things go. This is where this is the majority of this industry, data centers. I mean, any kind of processing and heavy-duty chemical manufacturing goes into these particular neighborhoods. It's never in like Oakwood. It's never in like Hilton Head. They got a lot of water, the ocean and stuff there. No data center there, and so that's something that I just wanted to point out, and not to mention the water usage. It's a lot.
Johnny, do you have any?
I'd say something.
No, I wonder how you think about the infrastructure questions, and yeah, just
100 megawatt
That's a lot.
is a lot.
That's a lot.
Our max capacity, our peak demand is about 11.
Yeah.
We have about the capability of 14, that's the capacity study
Right.
right now. So when you talk about a data center coming to here, number one, we'd have to figure out where they would go. Number two, they'd have to figure out how to get all the water that they need and the power. So that would mean that they would have to be working with transmission people and substations and we could.
And then we could just light candles and stuff.
Correct.
just
And
go
then
by
when they
fire.
turn on, everybody's on.
Light the grill up and
candles.
stuff.
I can say I went to Austin, Texas, or not, San Antonio, Texas, and I personally was able to see one of the data centers. One car, and the data center was probably 4 times the size of the super Walmart that I was in. And you could not hear anything in the parking lot going into that building, other than the data center. I don't ever think that a data center like that would come to Yellow Springs. They would, astronomical costs of transmission and water and things like that. I worry about the language on the data center because if we was to get another Maveka, I want to make sure that we're not putting a moratorium on a smaller data center like a Thor or a Maveka or a smaller thing for a college or something. So I think there should be some language in there that's very specific on what we're trying to resolve by the moratorium.
There is language in what Amy presented. There's language for that.
Okay.
so you're talking about Johnny, are you saying that you're concerned that the language in the draft? 'Cause
I did not see a size for the data center. It just says data center.
I know there was like the 10% thing, right?
This is the auxiliary data center.
Stephanie, which whereas were you thinking about? Oh, yeah.
I don't have that one open, but
1,
yeah.
2, 3, 4.
When it
The fourth
specifies
whereas.
fourth one, yeah.
auxiliary center.
10%.
Yeah.
Is not housed in a standalone structure separate from a permitted primary structure on the property. Occupies no more than 10% of the primary structure's footprint. But what you're saying is that you're wondering about, and I don't know enough about Mveka's operations, you're saying that you just want to make sure that if there's essentially, when we think about data centers, we're probably all imagining the Colossus. We're imagining the, massive thing. And honestly, we don't even probably have a footprint that's big enough in the village right now.
Correct. I would agree.
But that there could be smaller things that may already exist or have utility, and so trying to draw the line in between them. And does anybody disagree with that? Like the idea of trying to find some space for something that's much smaller or has I've never heard Mveka talked about as a data center, but you're saying functionally
They house data.
yeah.
So we could narrow it by square footage of the facility, by draw on the grid, by water usage, any combination of the above.
Correct.
We could get a little more creative on that, sure. And they do exist in a lot of communities. that you wouldn't necessarily even know they're there. I think it's the mega projects that are really,
Right, it's like the mega project's really scary, and then we talk about the CBE that we haven't developed in decades, and so you wonder, well, if there's a small one, like, and it sounds like we have one across the street.
We do.
So is everybody on board with the idea of if we could get a little more creative with limiting the scale? Nobody's disagrees with the idea of trying to create space for an Mbeka style thing. It's just, it's the massive things that everybody's nervous about, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So that sounds, it sounds like you have some ideas around that, and maybe you could work with Stephanie on, and staff on finding a balance. Does that sound okay? Other questions on that, I guess? I guess I didn't just say, it seems like a smart thing to say, hey, let's pause, let's wrap our heads around this for a minute before we, because I have heard from, well, I've read stuff in the paper, and then I've talked to people who are involved in the, some of the statewide efforts, that it can be significant and scary, and, when there's a big push that happens quickly on things that aren't particularly well regulated. So thanks for bringing it up. I know it's been a conversation behind the scenes, and glad to.
I'd also just, to Stephanie's point, and then to everyone's, I don't think this is just like a symbol, like ordinance, or one of these things that we're resting just on our values. I think it's actually timely in response to what's happening, because in the meetings that I'm also in, whether it be regional or state, these conversations are very much so happening. It's not one of those things where it's like, well, it's not happening here. The conversations are very close to where to us right now. So I commend it because it stands on the values of Yellow Springs and who we are, but it's also really the proactive in deterring this from coming to our doorsteps. And also, Johnny, I think your point was very valid. That we should make sure that we're not conceding business development at the and just kind of, again, putting it in the right lane. So.
Yeah, and I thought both y'all in your memos addressed that well too.
Really
Like
good.
nobody's trying to stop all development. It's just trying to figure out how do you balance it in a healthy way. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so it sounds like try to have something on the next agenda with a updated moratorium legislation in whatever that section's called, hearings and legislation. Okay.
And it'll be timely because AMP will be here as well, talking about the capacity or the charges. So.
Cool. Okay, so that'll be a transition to the future agenda in a minute, but we're looking at next meeting, so that'd be the May the 18th, adding on data center moratorium.
Yep.
Okay. Everybody good on moving on?
Yep.
All right, the next item on the agenda is future agenda. So that's where we are, yeah. Okay. Judy, you want to, anything you're wondering about or things you want to talk about for the 18th?
Well, there's a lot there, so maybe the agenda planning, we can sort of work through the timeline, see if there's anything that needs to move into June, but because there is a lot. There's two pieces of legislation so far. That piece of legislation you just added, and quite possibly the grant application approval. So,
What were the two things we just added? Sorry. Data center, and was there something else?
just data center, and then already on the thing is authorizing village manager or for the village to apply for a NatureWorks grant for softball field improvement. That should be ready to go.
Okay. So then, Carmen, you had brought up the village mediation program coordinator job description. So you want to, this would be like we would review and discuss a job description?
Review it, yes, and that needs to stay where it is. if it can.
Okay. Needs to stay where, meaning just on the 18th?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then sidewalks, so that would be, that's listed here. I'm going through my list just to make sure. So then updated goals and prioritization. So this is the one where we're gonna work on getting the housing goals in and then check in about sort of prioritization of the goals. Okay, and then the data center moratorium. Then we're going to discuss fewer summer meetings. So I think I mentioned in future agenda last meeting, I was just going to kind of take a look so that I try to be prepared for how we're doing for the possibility of the summer meetings. Right now, it doesn't feel impossible that we could cut back, but we'll talk about it at the next meeting. And then the municipal land trust. So this is, Carmen, you were going to have a memo on municipal land trust idea and have that on the agenda as well. Okay? Anything else that we missed for next meeting? Cool. And then in any of these other future ones that we need to mention, so this well ordinance piece, do we need to get that kind of in the mix at some point? Is that the idea?
Yes.
Okay, so it's basically talking about whether or not there should be some ordinance to cover well drilling or well policies within the village bounds?
Inside the time of travel
Okay.
for the
So
waters.
just, this is, staff have brought it up as a thing at the traffic planning recently, and so that, everybody okay with the idea of that coming sometime soon?
And another one would be a moratorium on vape shops.
Okay. Do you have a timeline on that?
Maybe June.
Okay.
This is the one we was going to bring, and Meg was bringing it, and then she left, so we held
Yeah.
off. But I think we can bring it in June and get it started.
Maybe with Philip in mind, every time we do a moratorium, we could
Correct.
do like a celebration, like
Correct.
actively inviting people to do, we don't want this, but we do want that. It's just an idea. Okay.
Well, nobody read their reports after Philip read his because
Okay.
you can't compare.
That's true. That's true. All right. Any other future agenda items? Okay. Cool. I guess take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right. Thanks, everybody.